Jonny, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really, really do appreciate it. I know we've been trying to set this up for a while now, but we're doing it
Yeah.
early morning style.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Are
Yeah,
you a morning person?
I am a morning person. Yeah. I I'm also a night person. I'm kind of a no sleep person.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's that's good. You get to see every angle, which
Yeah,
is
exactly. Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah. I'd like to say those things are kind of like by choice, but I don't know. I kind of gave up on that. Yeah.
It is what it is. You're up when you're up.
Yeah, totally.
It's yeah, you kind of I feel like everybody knows somebody who is on the up and up about getting up early, and then people who just don't sleep. And it's
Uh-huh.
good to have a good combination of those people within your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, um don't get me wrong, I do love sleep. Um, a lot. But
And
uh
you're referring to the band, right? Sleep, the band, not
yeah,
not yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Like
Big
that's the
fan of them.
soundtrack that I step to. Yeah.
When you're getting in the car, you're putting on some sleep.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Do you usually use your phone for when when you are driving and you do want to put on a song, or you open it up an app or something like that?
Um, it depends, app or CD. I
Okay.
still have CDs. And actually I love CDs. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I still have like a collection of CDs. Actually, when I was back at my folks' place recently and I found the that old like those big like leather binders that I used to have with
With
like
the
all these like
zipper.
burnt CDs, and I'm just going through it right now and checking out all the yeah, the old hits that I used to listen to. Yeah.
What were some staples when you first started driving of those CDs?
Yeah, I mean, I was really into like the Grateful Dead in high school. So for me, it's like a lot of burnt Dick's Picks volume 23, but it's like on a burnt CD with like just is just silver and it's like Sharpie in my
Of
high
course.
school handwriting. And yeah, and then also there's a fair amount of like R&B on there, like early 2000s like R&B. Um and what else? There's a lot of jazz too. Um that like I don't remember being as into in high school, but then when I started listening to these certain cuts, I started to remember it was like, oh yeah, my friend in high school's brother was the one burning us all these jazz CDs. So that's pretty cool too to put
Yeah,
those up.
and to have a jazz guy, that's also is very important.
Oh yeah, I mean I listen to a lot of jazz now, but it's just funny like I don't remember in high school walking around, school with my headphones on like listening to jazz. I just don't remember it super well, but I guess I was. Yeah.
I mean,
I was also like
that's good.
smoking a lot of weed, so I'm not sure I remember like exactly what I was even listening to. So,
I mean,
yeah.
you listen to Grateful Dead, of course you're smoking weed. That goes hand in hand.
Hey, I'm guilty. I had the lava lamp, the black light posters. I mean, I was a very stock high school kid, had
Sure,
a
sure.
bong with a name on it, like all that stuff. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
what state are we talking about when you were going to high school? Was this East Coast?
Yeah, I went to high school in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I'm from Massachusetts originally. I grew up just north of Boston, and then I went to high school in Western Mass. And
Good deal.
yeah, yeah.
Smoking weed, listen to Grateful Dead. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
Massachusetts for you.
and the little hippie town down there, and yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was really great.
Do you remember your first exposure to music, or when you first started getting into it?
Totally. I mean, my dad was really adamant about me being exposed to music early on. I think he took me I the first musical concert I went to, I saw the Beach Boys in like 1990. I think I might have been like 4 years old. He took me to see the Beach Boys um, at a place called Great Woods in Massachusetts. And it's funny, I really remember it. Like I do remember it. And it was funny. It was like Beach Boys and that band America. They were
Y-
touring together.
Sure, sure.
and
A great lineup. Yeah.
great lineup of like soft rock and Baroque pop. And I like I really do remember it as being like an experience of like leaving that performance and I remember my dad had a really big connection to the local Boston radio station, like the classic rock station through like what he does for work. So he would get these like tickets hooked up to like concerts that were like really good tickets. And he would like take me as a kid. And I just remember walking away feeling like so full of energy. And remember like
Yeah.
my dad was a huge Deadhead too. So like he's definitely guilty for putting that all in me. I mean, and which I absolutely love. So that's great. But I do remember like one time we were driving in the car and he had on this song and like one of the, it's the song Dire Wolf by the Grateful Dead. And like the chorus is like, don't murder me. And like I had that like stuck in my head. I think I was like 6 and I was like singing it in the gym at high school and like I got in trouble. And like they thought that there was something wrong with me because I was like singing this song. They were like, they thought I made it up or something. I don't know. It was really, really funny.
Like, no, that's about the Zodiac Killer. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah, exactly. But those are like early on, like that's when I remember really getting my exposure to music was really through my dad. Yeah.
that, that's was he a musician as well?
He played guitar growing up. He doesn't really play much anymore, but he used to like he plays guitar, was really into like folk music, and like traditional folk music. So he had like a little song book and he would play. I mean, he was obsessed with playing the song Alice's Restaurant. I remember that as a
Sure.
kid.
Good
And it
one.
used to like also excite me as a kid. Like I don't think I really understood the context of that song or anything, but I just was loving it.
I still don't, but I do like it. I don't think I fully grasp what that
Yeah.
song was about. All 15 minutes
Yeah.
of it.
Some restaurant from someone named Alice, I
Some
suppose.
restaurant and there's some trash that needs to be taken out. Yeah, it kind of went over my head, but I like it nonetheless.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, 14-minute song, 15-minute song.
totally.
It's a good one though. That's a it'd take up a lot of space on that CD if you were to burn it. It's
Yeah,
that's taking up a good chunk.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
When did you decide to pick up the guitar? Is that what you started with? Was it the first kind of
I
you went on
started
to?
with I took piano lessons as a kid, which was something that also like my parents really wanted for me, but my piano teacher was like really, really intense. Like, I mean, these are just early memories also. Like I was met with this conflict between like these like wonderful like concerts I was going to, and I was like, wow, this feels like really loose and fun. And then I'd go to like my piano teacher, who is this, Russian woman, and you'd walk in the house and you'd, have to put on these mouse slippers and go down into the basement to where the piano was. And
Oh man.
she would hit me with a ruler. Like she'd be hitting my wrists with a ruler and like, really stressing so I was learning like a lot of classical music as a kid, but I wasn't really like the yeah, that sort of teaching environment really informed like what I wanted to do because I think I immediately assumed that like that's what piano culture is like, and I was like, I see all these other people playing guitars who don't seem like they'll like hit me with a ruler. And like I was like, oh, like maybe I don't want to play piano, because like that's the culture of piano. So I don't know, but I did eventually. I was taking lessons in both. I switched to guitar, and my first guitar teacher was quite the opposite. He's amazing. I still like have a relationship with this person. His name is Fred Shepherd, and he made his F's like for Fred backwards, like Fender, and he immediately showed up. He was like an older guy. I mean, I don't know how old he was at the time. I'm gonna guess he was probably like in his late 30s or something. And he showed up with his Fender Stratocaster, and he had Pogs, like the Hawaiian Pogs, like hot glued to his like Stratocaster. And he's like, "Do you like Nirvana?" And I was like, whoa, I was like, I've never had an adult like ask me that. I was like, this guy's cool. So that was my first guitar teacher. And that was like, Fred, I know so many people he's inspired over the years. And he's just like, he's such a wonderful educator for kids. And so that really like led me down the rabbit hole of like wanting to pursue more and get more music.
Were you timid going into learning the guitar, thinking that it's like, oh, it's gonna be more of the same? Did that cross your mind?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think though, like the people I saw with electric guitars looked very different than the people I saw playing piano as an early. I mean, I don't know if that was just, my exposure, but I wasn't really like shown like any sort of like rock or funk or jazz idols with a piano. I just like always imagined, people like Jimi Hendrix and stuff, and like I was like, oh, I want that. Like I want that, and so I think I was a little worried at first, like when my mom set up this appointment with Fred Shepherd, and I was just like a little bit like nervous. But then once he like came in with his Pog guitar and like was like, "Do you like Nirvana?" I was like, "Oh, this guy's cool."
You're like, oh, I don't even see that guy's ruler, so I think this is gonna be
Yeah, he doesn't
pretty
have,
good.
a tape measure, so I think I'm pretty safe here. Yeah.
Did you take to it easily? Were you like, okay, cool, like I understand what I got to do to make sound out of this thing, and
It's
picking up
interesting.
chords?
I really didn't. I didn't take to it easily. And I remember getting really frustrated, like in like forcing my fingers into that like open G chord position with my fingers at first. And I was just like, I remember getting really frustrated because I know like one of the, you know, whatever the first song he assigned, I was having so much trouble with it. But then it clicked in my finger muscles. But guitar was like way harder for me than piano was. Um, I don't know. Yeah, that was just my experience.
And then did you think like, all right, I gotta go back to that lady, and I gotta get back to my
Oh, I did
roots?
not. I did not. No. I was actually like bribed to go there eventually. Like my mom would be like, "I'll take you to Richdale," which is like like I don't know. If you're not from, New England, you might not know what Ridgedale is, but it's kind of like the 7-Eleven out there, except for like way less flashy. And like my mom would be like, you can go to Richdale and get whatever you want if you go to, Eileen's. I'd be like, oh no. So
Was it worth
I'd
it? Was it
show up.
even worth it at the end of the
Yeah.
day?
I mean, I'd show up like 5 pixie sticks deep, like ready to just like try it.
You're hitting it before.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh yeah.
god.
Oh yeah. She take me there on the way there. Yeah, that's
You're
probably was a
bouncing off the
mistake.
wall.
Yeah.
Was there a point with the guitar that it finally clicked? Was there like, oh, okay, I understand. Like this is getting easier, or
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was a time, I think like when I started learning, like I remember this idea of like just learning like power chords, and like I was like, whoa, you can like play like this. And I was like, this is kind of cool. And then it kind of clicked. Like it was interesting. I was always, and Fred used to say this, I remember in my head, but he would say, like, you're really good at rhythm. Like, rhythm isn't your problem. Like, it's like getting your fingers to like get into the shapes and move fast enough. So I feel like he was like, rhythm is a much harder thing to teach someone, and sometimes like can't be taught in a way. And he was like, you can like, you got a great sense of rhythm and cool rhythm. So like I had like this, he instilled this faith that like it was just really about a little bit of practice. But eventually, yeah, I did. I mean, I did really kind of get into it, and I was continuing to see like yeah, I saw a lot of music as a kid. You know, I saw so much music into the, into the 90s. Like I would go to all the like it's just crazy because I see like, you know, 12-year-old, 13-year-olds now, and there's no way I would ever drop them off at like a huge concert venue all day and like let them run around. But like, you know, my folks would like, they'd take me to like these like 90s festivals. I remember seeing Stone Temple Pilots when I was like 13, and like I was so small that me and my friends would like kind of get to the front of the stage. And I remember the first time, like, yeah, I saw Scott Weiland. I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like so confused because I had listened to the record so many times. I was just like, whoa. I was like, this is like a whole nother like rock experience for me, you know. But I would go to all those things. Everything that came through, those shows that came through Boston, I was seeing like everything from Stone Temple Pilots to like, yeah, my dad would take me go see like the Stones and Neil Young and stuff, and it was wild, you know.
You
It
got
was really great.
wide variety of stuff.
Wide variety of music growing up. Yeah.
At what point did you start jamming with other people and start joining up bands and whatnot?
Yeah, like we had like a few talent show type things in middle school that I we would have to do like, cover songs, and um I again got in trouble because we covered like Blink 182, damn it, like that song. And I
Oh, you're asking for trouble, dude.
I said the like line that was like, I don't know, whatever it is. Like, and I like got in trouble, but yeah, I mean, that was like the first time I had experiences playing music with other people. And we had this like, there was this like high school kid who was like, I don't remember exactly how this happened, but like a couple of my friends' parents like all got together and like kind of hired this kid who was like in high school to like be our like band like coordinator and teacher. His name was Todd, and he had like, this is like the 90s, so he had like the like spiky, like it would look like SLC Punk like hair, and
Yeah,
it,
the Liberty Spike.
yeah, Liberty Spike, and it was they were all white. Like he had done Manic Panic, so they were like all white. And I remember thinking it was the coolest thing in the world. Like I mean, it's still amazing to me, but like I remember asking my mom, like, can we go to Newberry Comics, which was like the record store at the time around there, and like I want to get like white hair dye, and like so like in seventh grade, I was like trying to do it, but I didn't know how. So I like there's pictures of me with just like clumps of like white like in my hair. It looks like a bird just like shit on top of my head. Like it's amazing. And but yeah, that was like the first time Todd like helped us like uh learn the songs, or like my friend played drums, I was playing a lot of guitar, and I could also, at that point, I really loved bass as well. I was like kind of getting into bass, and so I'd switch off with my friend Doug, and like we had this little power trio, and we were like, but we weren't really like, we weren't writing anything. We were just kind of like trying to learn songs and like how to be a rock band, and that was really cool. That was really cool.
So you're playing Blink 182, being a bad kid, getting swatted, saying swears. That was your leeway into music.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually. I mean, I never really thought of it, but yeah, the ruler thing has really stuck with me. Like
Yeah,
in
because it's a
my life,
it's a ruler against your
it's
knuckles.
crazy. Like when I sit at a piano, I do notice I still like look at my hands. I'm like, am I in like a good form? And I'm like, Jesus, I'm like 36 years old. This was like almost 30 years ago. Like, I mean, it's crazy,
It sticks with you, yeah.
It
And then
stays with you,
and,
yeah.
and then immediately you go to like the nearest convenience store and get some sugar in you.
Yeah.
just to mellow
Yeah,
out.
I got that. Yeah, Pavlovian craving for pixie sticks.
Moving forward into like high school, were you still progressing within music, kind of joining bands and whatnot, still playing with people?
Yeah. I mean, I think I started writing like music in high school. I had like a little like Tascam Blue 4 track or something. And I was like, I would mess around with like, I didn't know what it was called at the time, but like overdubbing on top of myself and like playing on top of like things. And it wasn't really so much lyrical in nature at that point as it was just kind of like, oh wow, this is really fun to kind of like to have less limits and just kind of like jam on like a like a chord or something. And obviously at that time I was getting into much more like experimental and improvisation music um through kind of 60s countercultural music. And yeah, so I started to like do that. I had another guitar teacher in high school who was really cool, but he was and he was really rooted in like the blues, which I'd never like learned any of that. Like I never learned any basic theory stuff, I guess I should say, until high school, until I had that teacher who was like, he didn't like enforce it, but I actually like he proposed it and I was like really into it. So I learned like, basic some basic theory, musical theory and scales and stuff like that. And that was like the next kind of step, I'd say. Yeah.
Did that change the course of how you made music going forward from that teacher, the secondary teacher, like showing you scales and whatnot? Did that
Yeah. I
how,
mean, I
does
was
that do you see that the influence now in what you're making?
oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of yeah, I see that. I see that in terms of like, I mean, I've never been that great of a like ripping solo guitar player. I think like again, like I really love rhythm. And so like I think like that's what really like attracted me to like the blues, was not so much like the like soloing over the form, but like some of those like older blues players, like Robert Johnson and Lead Belly, where they were like playing like this rhythmic style that I'd like never heard before. And so yeah, that for me, like I think has stayed with me a lot.
With these bands and other things, were you more, or projects, were you more inclined to pick up the guitar at first to hash things out and then build from there?
Yeah. I think I was very into guitar and bass. I wasn't really playing much keyboard or piano in high school. Drums was something that came like later, a little bit later in my life. So
Mhm.
yeah. But I had a couple of friends who I'm still close with. They had this band called Lord Huggington in high school, and they were like so cool, and like I was like kind of their biggest groupie and stuff. Also, it was really sick going to high school in Western Mass because it opened my like Boston music scene very different from like Western Mass, where I was getting exposed to like a lot of other different types of music that were going on at the Flywheel, which is like this, like it was like a smaller venue, like a DIY based kind of venue in the area. And I would go to shows there in high school. And yeah, like Andrew WK like played there. Like we were like super young. And I remember seeing him and being like, holy shit, this guy is like a prophet. Like I was like super into it. And yeah, so I had like a few friends, like we would go see like a lot of shows. We were so young and just like really wanted to just experience like that spirit of music, which like I think that's something that I is definitely like just resonates with me still today. I love music, you know, I love going to see it, and the feelings that come from seeing live music are just so important to me. Yeah.
Definitely. Right, right. Did you ever take any lessons for like a bass lesson, or was it usually you were just
No,
with guitar and figured out the bass eventually with
no, I really got into the band in high school, and and like watching
because
the
they came through town? Yes, yeah. Your dad got tickets. I understand. Yeah,
I just loved the band, and like my favorite member of the band was Rick Danko, and I just like loved watching videos, and I was like, this guy is so cool. Like I want to like play bass like this, like freaking Gumby. Like I like I really loved his voice and everything, and I was just like, so I kind of like got really into like bass through basically watching Rick Danko play bass, and like watching, you know, my dad would play the Last Waltz a lot, like, you know, growing up. I think I never really paid much attention to it until like high school, and I was like, you know, that there's this like one song, like It Makes No Difference, when he's like singing and playing bass. It's just like so emotive, and I was just like, this guy is, you know. So I definitely, that's what kind of got me more into the bass, but I never took any lessons. I just kind of was like trying to play in that style.
right.
um yeah.
Was bass more of like a self-explanatory instrument than the guitar?
I remember the first time realizing in my head, originally, I was like, bass is the same as guitar. It's just the top four strings. It's like you just do the same thing, you just don't play chords. And I remember like the first time like realizing like in my head, I was like, these are not the same thing. Like being like, wait a second. Like, so there was a moment where I definitely was playing bass just like a guitar. Like I was just kind of like strumming, like down picking stuff, or like just kind of like playing, you know, roots, and like not really adding much rhythm type of playing to it. But then when I saw like Rick Danko play the bass in like that way, I was like, whoa, this is like wild. And when I did that, my dad was also just like, he's like, oh, you like bass? Like, have you ever like listened to like the Beatles bass playing? And he, like, I grew up like listening to a lot of the Beatles, but I never paid attention to the bass playing before. And then I was like, oh shit, like Paul McCartney's crazy. Like, you know, so I kind of like, I had a little bit of a bass revival in my life. I would say like late high school.
A revival within high school. Yeah, it came back. It came
It
back
came
in,
back. I was like, oh, the bass is actually like really important.
which is forgotten in
I think
modern
to a
times.
kid, to me, it was. I was like, bass. I was like, yeah, cool. It's
Nobody cares about bass. It's
like,
overlooked.
yeah, bass ain't shredding, you
Yeah.
know?
Um, did you go from Massachusetts directly to California?
No, so I moved to Vermont, and I lived in Vermont for
A-
about,
As you do, up Grateful Dead. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
well, I'll tell you what, like my path was very much like, it's so funny. I mean, it's actually ridiculous, but I decided like I want to go to school like in Burlington, Vermont, because like fish started there, and that's where I'm gonna go to school. And
Of
it's
course,
wild.
of
It's like
course.
that was my decision making process. And like when I got there, I met like a bunch of other people who were like, I did the same thing. You know? I mean, this is like early 2000s. Like I'd seen them at that point play, like, and I was mind blown. And like, you know, friend's brother was the one who like introduced us to it like early on. I was given like, he gave me like a fish cassette tape when I was like in middle school. I used to carpool with this kid and his brother to school, and he would like pop in like a fish cassette in my mom's car every morning. Like we were like sixth grade. And like I remember being like, this is silly. This is fun. Like, what is this? And then like, yeah, like before end of high school, like I started really getting into like that type or not even that. Honestly, I really wasn't into any of the other type of music in that scene besides them, which was kind of odd. Like, because when I did move to Vermont, there was a lot of people who were just like into jam bands and stuff, but I never really like feel like I was just more into like Fish. Like I just liked them. And
Just fish. That's it.
yeah, it's it's funny. It's like, yeah, I mean it's like definitely part of my musical story to like, yeah, and
To
that's
get
when
into fish.
yeah, I moved to Vermont, but like that's where I actually did start like, had like my first like band. Um and I remember like playing like my first like actual show. It was like freshman year of college. I was so fortunate. I mean, I got put on so I went to University of Vermont and I got put on this floor. It's some sort of crazy universe thing happened, but like I literally was on a floor with like some of my met them the first day and we're still like super close and like one of those like we formed a band like the second day of college and like it was so fun. Like I'd never met people because the drummer was from New York City and had this like crazy drumming background. I'd never played with a drummer like that. Like I mean he went on to form this band called Gorilla Toss, which is like are amazing and prolific. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but
No.
they're a band out there today, and I've had the opportunity to be able to like work with them in different ways over the years, which is cool. But like these like relationships musically just like all happened one day, like right when I got to college. We played this show. This is no joke. We played a show at a house party in a basement, and it was the guy who was had the house wasn't he was from New York and he was older. And I don't know who convinced him to be able to let us like play in his basement during a house party, but someone did. And he was a really scary guy. Like, I remember being scared of this guy. Like, he was not like I came to Vermont to be like a like hippie like person. He was like from New York City and like looked like he would like kick the shit out of you. Like if you said anything that like was remotely like it was scary. I remember walking in just being like, and we played in the basement, and I kid you not, it was like it was packed. I remember looking out and there were two people having sex like on the right wall. And then I looked in the back and there were two people getting in a fist fight like in the other corner. And this was like the first show that we played, and I was just like, what the I was just like, oh my God, like this is crazy right now.
Yeah,
Like
fish never had to deal with that kind of shit. No, that wasn't
I
going on.
don't know if it did. But yeah, our music was very not fishy. It was definitely like a little bit like just to give you a little bit of the arrangement of this band, it was saxophone, mandolin, bass, keyboard, drums, and guitar. So it was kind of like a weird funk Celtic vibe with like some brass. It was sick though. It was really cool. Yeah.
Hey, wait, you 18 at the time, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
wasted no time getting into a band, finding a place.
Oh, it was so fun. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's why that's wild. That's a good first show story.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like, yeah. I it's really wild. Yeah.
So from there, where you're like, okay, this is where I need to be musically at this
I
time.
think, yeah, I mean, I really wanted to, so a lot of people I was in that band with were in the music. They came there to go to the music school at at University of Vermont, and I didn't like. I was kind of interested in like writing, so I was like doing like the like English literature program there, and eventually like that after that first year, it was like I remember when we were coming back the next year, and we were like, I was like so stoked. I was like, let's like keep this band going, and they were all kind of like, they're like, we're into jazz now, and like,
You're like, I'm into jazz. You should see my fucking CDs. I got them.
but they were like, yeah, they were like, we don't really like want to like, we just want to like, we need to like, we want to learn like jazz standards, and like, we don't
Like,
want to like,
I know that. I know the scales. I
yeah,
got rhythm.
like,
Let's do it.
I know Dorian, like I know Mixolydian, like let me in. But I couldn't, I like, they were kind of like in this way that was like, at the time I was kind of hurt. I was like, what? I was like, I thought we were having fun. And they were just kind of like, what's really funny now is that like, so I'll just fast forward a little bit. They did that. They went their way and started playing standards and stuff. And then like maybe a year like after, we're just like, fuck this. Like they all came back, they were all like, we're like, no, we don't want to we don't want to play this anymore. So it was kind of funny.
How many of the people from the band went on to do that for a bit,
um Four of them. So there was like
including the
two of us
mandolin
who were
player?
like, we started a different band, like me and this other person. We're like, fine, we'll start a different project. Like, and they kind of like, I mean, that they were in music school. I mean, they had to like learn all this like, really intricate theory at that time, and like, they were getting invited to do these like local jazz restaurant gigs and all that. And I think I was just on a different trip. Like I was just like, no, like I want to like party. Like I want to like
I want to
I
get
want
down to
to
that
play like
basement again. I want to see what's going
yeah,
on.
I want to play more basements
I want
pretty
to play more
much.
basements. I want to see more fist fights, more people having sex. That's what I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
see.
I was on the tip of like really wanting to play bass. I swear to you, like I like after that first basement show, I was looking at like every house party I'd go to, I'd be like, what's the basement like here? I'd be like,
What's
do
the
you have
basement situation? Show me
any-"
the
Yeah, I'd be like,
give me the tour. I didn't see the basement. We got to
yeah.
finish it off.
I remember asking like I scrounged some like money and like was like I bought like this really janky PA so I could like take it anywhere and we could like play a show like in any basement, and like Burlington, Vermont is like full of basements because like it's New England's full of basements, but like Burlington has some like gross basements. I mean, like these were like not play these were disgusting. Like it's like really,
I mean,
yeah.
but how many basements have you been? Have you been in more basements that are like not finished or not kept up than
Yeah.
like finished basements? Who's got
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's like different too, though, because like they get so much weather and seasonal weather that like it's like mold central down in those basements. Like it's like, every apartment I lived in Vermont was like, and to mention like this is like student based housing, so these landlords don't give a shit. They know they're gonna film, so they don't take care of them. So it's like I remember like moving into these places and like walking to the basement and just like being like, Jesus Christ, like yeah. But yeah, I mean it was a different, I think there was like different musical trips going on in my community, like in early college, where like some people were really getting into like classically trained music. Some people were getting more into like jazz focused music. And I just kind of wanted to like continue to write like my own music. And I think that's like, at the time, I saw those as not being able to coexist. And I think somehow the people I was around felt that way. But like, obviously, they all can coexist. But I like didn't have any maps for that. Like I didn't have any people around me being like, you can like write music and also like be into music theory and get classically trained. Like I didn't like have that. So
Right, right.
um
It was separated as like
it was
this is like
very
this is like
separated. It was
this.
like, here's this camp, here's this camp, here's like the like heady fish camp. Here's like the like songwriter camp. You know, it wasn't like there
Here's a
wasn't
basement
really
camp
overlap.
over here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, going back to that, Johnny. What was your basement situation when you were a kid? You had a basement where you grew up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it a sick basement or was it like
It was amazing basement. Yeah. It was sick. Yeah. I was scared to death of it, but it was sick. It was sick. Yeah, I'm visualizing it right now. It was really cool. Yeah. My dad's a big fly fisherman, and he had this like fishing closet in the basement, and it was like cement. You know, it's like unfinished. Like it just like was just like this cement room where there's just like a bunch of fishing rods and like a desk where he would like tie flies like in the dark. It was some real like Massachusetts shit. Yeah, it was like it was funny.
does where's that? Oh, he's in he's in the basement. He's silently
Yeah, he's in the
making
fishing room, is what he called it.
oh, the
Yeah,
fish, of course, a fishing
yeah,
room. Yeah.
the fishing room. Yeah,
Everyone's got one. Yeah.
yeah, he's got. Yeah, I mean, it's full of like lobster traps and all that shit. Like it was. Yeah,
That's his space. Yeah. He's
yeah,
got yeah.
yeah. He has his little closet in the basement.
It's a fishing room, man. That's yeah.
Yeah,
Was your whole basement with concrete or there's cement down there or was only partially
I think it was pretty concrete, and then like there was, I think there was like a time where there was a finished element to it, but I remember it as being concrete and scary down there. Um,
and
yeah,
lures being down there and stuff?
lures, like a lot of lobster traps.
Some
Uh,
hooks.
yeah, like all that stuff, like my dad's boat stuff and all that. Yeah.
Would you want to play basements in Los Angeles where you are now if there was basements to play?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a basement in LA, but what is so great about LA is like you can play outside, which is cool. That's like I think I'd rather now probably play outside in like people's like I love house shows that are like outside in the backyard or something like that. Like I love that. Or like we've done a show down at the LA River, which was like so fun. But yeah, I feel like I mean basements have a huge place in my heart, you know, in this way that like that's like all that was my initial show experiences. We're all playing like, you know,
You were in
those.
that circuit for a bit and now you graduate to outside.
Yeah, now I'm outside.
So how long did you spend in Vermont? Did you finish up school there?
I did finish up school. I was there for about 7 years. I was like living there after I graduated. A lot of my friends who musically I was involved with there ended up leaving that music program and being like, well, if I'm gonna like they like a bunch of them went to NEC in Boston, which is like conservatory and had like more choices. He offered like a lot of like weirder, deeper stuff. Like at UVM, it was like you choose classical or you choose jazz. And I think a lot of my like musical friends who were really into music, they were like, oh fuck this, but like I would go to a school that like had like more like there were classes at NEC being taught by like Johnny Greenwood and like like there's like some like more space for composition and stuff like that. So a few of my friends went there, if not to finish school, but for their like masters. But I stayed in Vermont. I was living there. Um, Working at a like this like cafe like slash venue bar called the Radio Bean, which is like an amazing space. And so I was kind of like living there, part of the community, but I was also like really diving deep into some like bad lifestyle choices. Um, yeah. So I eventually actually came to Los Angeles. Originally, I was supposed to be here for 2 weeks because I was coming to rehab out here. And so yeah, because I was like,
You got to leave the basement sometimes. You got
I
to
got
leave.
it. I
Gotta
went
go.
a little too far into the, I ended up finding really like hard drugs, and I was like using heroin every day for like years of my life, and I was on the verge of death in like one of the most beautiful places I would argue in the world. Like Vermont is gorgeous, but yet like they have a huge opiate problem in New England, and I just was like a part of that, and I got sucked into some really dark times, and luckily I just like Google searched one night when I thought I was gonna die, and I like Google searched like one night like opiate detox, like, and like it was like 2 in the morning. I got this guy on the phone named Mark who was in LA, and he was like, "What's up, brother?" And I was
That
like,
was wait. I'm sorry.
"Yeah,
Let's just go back for a minute. Were
yeah,
you calling him as you thought that you were dying?
yeah,
You called him, and that's how he answered.
yeah." He was like the intake coordinator for this rehab, and I was like very like I had like I just thought I mean I had thought I was gonna die multiple times, but this time like felt like I actually I don't really have any words to describe why I picked up the phone. I still don't know why. I can't remember. I maybe it was like God showing up or whatever. I literally don't know. I picked up the phone. This guy answers, named Mark. Yeah, he's like,
It's
"What's up,
Mark.
brother?" And I'm
He
like,
was he
"Hey,
like he was expecting you or something. Did that throw you like the way he answered the phone?
yeah, a little bit. It threw me, but it also made me feel really comfortable because I was like, really like, I remember feeling like I'm just gonna get some sort of fucking doctor on the phone, and
Nah,
then I'm
you
gonna
got
hang
some
up.
sort of Mark on the phone.
And I'm gonna
That's what
hang
you got.
up. I wasn't expecting a guy like Mark to be like, he's like, dude, what's going on? Like, I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die, Mark.
I'm dying right now, Mark. How are you,
Yeah.
brother?
And he's like, totally get it. I was like, so fun.
Very chill with it.
Oh, he was being so chill. I mean, like, people in that world, like I worked in flash forward, like whatever. I worked in treatment centers and rehabs for about like 7 or 8 years in my life. And like people are really like that. They're like very, I mean, almost, I hate using this word, but maybe like a little bit desensitized to like the idea. They're just so used to being surrounded by people who are on the verge of death under the influence of drugs, that it's just kind of like becomes like it's like anything else. It's like ordering breakfast or some shit. Like
They're
it's
super
really
cavalier about
wild.
it.
It's
Yeah.
really wild. But like, yeah, so Mark was just like, he's like, let me run your insurance, because at that point I'm like still on my parents' insurance. I think I was 25, and he's like, hop on a plane, like your insurance will pay for 30 days. We'll pay for the plane ride for you if you want. I'll book it for tomorrow. Like, and I was just like, okay. I was like, California sounds nice. I've never been to LA. I don't even know what it's like. So then I like, yeah, just like got on a plane in my slippers with like a couple like my LO Bean slippers. I had like a backpack with like a few shirts in it. And I was just like, got on a plane, like friggin' yeah, I was like, I stayed up all night.
Yeah,
Like,
okay. Before calling Mark, what
yeah,
was why did you feel like you were going to die? Did you feel like you took to and this was on
yeah.
heroin?
Well, like, yeah, my tolerance for, so at that point, like, the idea of like fentanyl being introduced to drugs was not really a thing. So like my tolerance to opiates was really high. I'd been using every day for a really long time. Like it wasn't like I didn't get high from shooting heroin anymore. Like that, it was just literally it was maintenance. It was really, really literally to like function.
Maintain. Yeah.
Yeah, it was to function and not withdraw. But that night, I'd also, I mean, I'd taken like a bunch of mushrooms and fucking, I was doing ketamine off my thumbs and like fucking all sorts of shit.
You're
Like I
mixing
was,
all these together, ketamine,
yeah.
heroin, and mushrooms on the same night.
I mean, it wasn't it's this I'm literally it's like it's not funny. Like to me it is funny, but I know it's not. It's
It
like
in
it's really
hindsight,
embarrassing, but at the same time that really wasn't that odd in my life at that point. Like
that
I
was
was like I was like a
casual,
Hunter S. Thompson type of dude. Like I'd just
just
be like
taking everything, right?
I was just like
Right.
whatever. Like and it just didn't, and I mean, I was a mess, I was a mess. I was so checked out from like what the reality of myself. I mean, I had no friends around me. Like no one wanted to be around me. I knew in my brain I needed help for like 3 years. Like it wasn't like a
Wow.
new thing for me to be like, I need help. It was like in my brain, I was like, I'm gonna die, and I knew that, and I kind of resolved to that a little bit, but something about like there was something about like California, I think that like stuck in my brain. I think it was kind of like, you know, I mean, it's probably because like I just knew like all the whatever discourse and cultural stuff around California. Like I'd never experienced LA or anything. And it was the middle of winter in Vermont too, mind you. Like it's brick cold, like so cold. And my day consisted of like watching the same Law and Order episode for like fucking 6 months, and like getting
Did you
up off my couch to walk to the corner, get some donuts and maybe score some fucking shit, come back. Like it was a mess, dude.
did you already know how that episode ended every day?
No, I
Like
kept nodding out. I couldn't finish it. It's so dark.
it's like, okay, all right, who this guy knows something. I know that, but is that the guy that did the thing?
I remember like I don't know why. I mean, it's so funny. I've talked about this with like multiple like people who were like heroin addicts over the years, but like, you know, HBO programs and those series. I mean, this was also like 12 years ago, so that was like the only kind of station doing that thing at the time. But I remember I was watching like Sopranos and like all that shit, and I would watch like the whole series and I'd be like, start it again. Like I don't think I really remember anything from this. I think in my lifetime I've probably watched The Sopranos. Well, now I've watched it more because I actually love it. I think it's a brilliant show. But I think I've watched the whole thing like at least 10 times in my
And you go,
life.
who is this guy? What's
Yeah, like what?
Tony? Tony, I think is the
Yeah,
guy's name.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so that's how I got to LA. And then
Wow,
I Mark picked me up at the airport, which was cool.
what a guy. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
sick
I still
move.
know him. Mark is the shit. I mean, he picked me up, brought me to the treatment center. The last time I used was in this airplane somewhere over Colorado, like
Were
in
you
Western.
were you still high off of either the or the were the mushrooms still in effect when you got on the plane?
Maybe a little,
But
probably.
but not like so much that you
Not
couldn't.
tripping wise. I wasn't in the zone, but I was
And you and
definitely
and you shot up in the airplane?
I don't think I shot. No, I
Or
just
sorry, is it
put it in my nose.
intravenous or was
Yeah,
it
it was, but I didn't bring any needles on the plane. I had before, um, but not that time.
and
That time I didn't have
we're talking
time
about
because the flight was so early. I didn't have. Yeah, it was.
this is post 9/11. This is only 12 years ago now. I mean, so
Yeah,
it's
25. I
accurate.
think I was like very. Yeah, I mean, it's really. I mean, again, this is like extremely common if you talk to people who are drug addicts, but like you start to get really arrogant and cocky. Like nothing can happen to you. And I remember walking through security with like bags. Like I would like put on a collared shirt and I would just be, and you know what it is? It's like, it's totally an example of just fucking white privilege gone wild. Like, I'm a white kid wearing a fucking collared shirt. No one is gonna think that I have like fucking bags of heroin in my top pocket walking through security. Like I mean, I was just taking advantage of like every sort of like, I mean, it's fucked up. I was not a good person. I was just like and I think subconsciously I wanted to get caught. I wanted someone to stop me.
But
But
it didn't even cross your mind like, okay, I might get stopped or a dog might bark or something like that, or you're just like, whatever.
it might cross my mind, but I had no connection to consequences. Like I didn't care. Like I just did not care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about you. I didn't care about me. I didn't care about the world. I didn't care about living. I didn't care about dying. I didn't. I
Maybe
had
Law and Order, maybe
maybe
just to
law.
find
Yeah,
out who the
maybe
fuck did the
Law and
killing.
Order. I wanted to finish that episode maybe before I died, but
Like,
other
yes,
than that,
that I care about, but besides that, yeah.
yeah.
So you did it in the plane, oh, maybe over Colorado, which is pretty dang close to touching down.
Well, I needed to get that last fix before I knew I was getting off the plane and didn't have anything left. Although I did, man, I didn't have any dope left, but I did stock my whole fucking cargo pocket with a bunch of Xanax. Because I had no idea what rehab was. I knew like one person in my life who like went there and talking to people who like grew up in California, they're like so aware of what rehab is at a young age because there's so many. But like on the East Coast, there was like nothing. There's no rehab. There did nothing like that at that point. So it was like,
There's like fishing closets, but that's something
yeah.
else. Yeah.
So like I thought like I was like, oh, this is like gonna be a place where I can just like chill, like in California, maybe go to the beach a little. I'll have my Xanax and I'll just kind of like slowly like mellow out, get off dope. And then once I'm off dope, my life will just be fine. And then I'll go back to Vermont in a couple of weeks and I'll be fine. I'll just like I won't do it anymore and I'll like say I'm sorry and fucking to some friends and you know that was like my thought process. Like it's crazy.
Easy, easy.
Easy. Like no connection to like this is connected to some other deeper mental health shit. Like it was just like, yeah. So
Surface levels. It's what
yeah,
was that? A couple 9 days, nine
yeah,
days, and I'm back, and then yeah,
yeah,
everything's good.
yeah. But I showed up at the rehab and like they immediately search you when you go to any rehab, as I mean anyone who's been knows. And they're all the people who work there are like ex-addicts, so they know all the tricks. Like immediately this guy just like taps my cargo pocket and it's just like jingling like I have like a fucking gumball machine in there. And like he's like, can you take all that shit out of here? I was like, it's like, oh, I was like, really? He thought I was like literally like he did think that later on I had a conversation with him. He thought I was trying to like sneak shit in when the reality is like I actually had no conception that that would be not okay.
Like, no, this is just for me. This is just my.
Yeah, it's just I'm not gonna give it to anyone.
No. I need all of this.
Yeah,
This is not. Don't worry. Like, I'm cool. No
yeah,
worries on. You don't have to worry about me with this. No. This is not my problem.
dude, yeah, crazy,
And leading up to this time of going to rehab, what was your relationship with music like at that time?
dude. Oh, I was still playing music and like I wasn't writing really. I was trying to, but I couldn't really. I was playing in a friend's band and I was again like a mess. Like I was like nodding out. I fell over once on stage and like hit my head on like a cymbal. And that was like a big sign. Like everyone was really, I remember like looking out and being like, what just happened? And everyone had this look of concern on their face. Like they were like really worried about me. And I had like a lot of friends there. That was when it kind of like took a turn, but I definitely wasn't writing music at that like heavy into it. In the beginning, I was like in the beginning, it kind of like loosens you up in this way where like you write stuff and it might be cool and you're like well connected to it. But when I was like deep in it, like I lost all the passion for it. Like it was scary. It was sad, really sad.
Sure, yeah, that's a tough thing.
Yeah, because you also don't care about anything else really than getting like the next fix. Like it's so cliche, but it is true. Like that's what my life was about. It's like, how can I scheme today to get drugs? That was my life, you know. Nothing
Right.
else was of importance anymore. So yeah, my connection to music completely just I lost that.
It was
Yeah.
deteriorated. It wasn't
Yeah. Yeah.
prevalent.
Yeah.
So when you got out to California and you actually got into rehab and started going through this process of rehabilitation, was it what was the duration of your stay? I mean, you said you never went back, right? You never went back to
Yeah.
Vermont.
I ended up being so once I was there, eventually after 30 days, I was like, all right, it's time for me to go. And they were like, they looped my folks into it, you know? And then when my folks like got involved and they like realized, like they were like, listen, here's what's going on. Your son needs a lot of help. And he's gonna leave here. And they basically like had them set some hard boundaries for me. And they were like, how are you gonna fly home? Like your parents aren't gonna fucking help you, you know? And eventually they kind of like it was a mixture between that and like also positively manipulating me to stay. Like even if it was like another week, like they'd be like, how about this? Like, how about this? We take you we take you to Randy's Donuts. Have you ever been to Randy's Donuts? Like, what the fuck is Randy's Donuts? They're like, it's the place in Austin Powers with the big fucking donut that's floating in outer space. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, how about this? We take you to Randy's Donuts. We get you a donut. We just chill today. They would do shit like that. And I'd be like, all right, like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go get a fucking donut. Or they would be like, they were really kind in that way. They knew how to get me. They're like, how about this? Like, how about like, you know, we know like one of you're really into music. So and so's brother has a concert. How about like you go out to this concert with someone from the rehab and you just go see some music in a couple of days. Like they kept doing this shit that was like, you know, it was like I know the game now, you know, that they were playing, but you know, it was great. I mean, they were really like trying to show me that I could have a life that wasn't built around, you know, my previous patterns. And
Right. And do you think in hindsight they talked to your mother and they asked her like, how did you get him to go to those piano? You know, I know what was your tactic, and she's like, oh well, I would take him to the corner store, and I'd get
I mean,
he
yeah,
likes sugar.
hey, let history show I'm easily manipulated by sugar. I think that's still true in my life today. I mean, yeah,
That's the
it's
driving
true.
force.
Like my friend Rob was like, "Hey, come over for ice cream tonight," and then like got me over there to talk about some shit. I was like, you know, it's like, yeah, you're right. Didn't quite see that pattern, but yeah,
That's yeah. She gave him the tactic. Just tell him that you'll stop somewhere
yeah,
beforehand, because
yeah.
he needs to get
He
hopped up on
needs
the
that.
sugar to
He
go.
needs
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that's
he
hilarious.
needs it. That's what he needs.
He needs that. He needs that.
So I mean, so you never went back to retrieve anything else, or you just started anew in
My sister and my
California?
folks like packed up all that shit for me and brought it back to Massachusetts, which was like really amazingly kind of them. And I didn't go back. Like yeah, I stayed here. And I was like in inpatient treatment for like 90 days. And then I lived in like a like transitional living situation for about 2 months. So in totality, it was like 5 months that I was like, and then I was like, I mean, I'm, you know, that was just like me being stone sober for 5 months and like living in a city I'd never been to, knowing no one. I mean, I didn't know anyone, you know, besides the people from rehab. And so that's like how my,
And Randy from the donut store,
and
and that's it.
Randy's, and yeah, yeah.
So did you go back to Massachusetts to pick up your stuff, or did they your folks brought it out
I
here?
eventually like went home to visit and slowly brought out some things like music stuff that I had there.
Or like a pair of pants or something?
Yeah, like some pants
Some
and some
shoes?
shoes. They sent some stuff for sure. I remember they sent a few things. I do remember like when I first moved here feeling like so out of style or whatever. Like, or there was something going on. Like it was like right in that peak of where everyone was like shaving the side of their head on like one side. And like everyone at the A meetings like looked like that and wore like leather jackets. And I was just like still in like my big like fish shirt and like like was like still wearing my like big ass like fucking like tie-dye shirt that was like torn to shreds and had like burn marks on it from like when I'd like, you know, lit a cig, like ashing cigs. Like I was like, I didn't understand. Like I was like, whoa, this is so different like than like Vermont. The like transitional living situation I was living in was in Laurel Canyon, and I would go down the hill into Studio City. And I thought that was downtown. I thought that was downtown LA because it just like looked like a downtown to me. Like, and I would tell them I was like, I'm going downtown, and they would be like, "What? Why the fuck are you going to downtown LA?" Like, they would get all like, they would like piss test me when I got back because they like thought I was doing sketchy shit, and then they found out I was going like what I meant by downtown was like going down the hill. like,
Into town, yeah.
like I was literally just going down the hill there. So yeah, I was like very had this like naivety to me when I moved here that was just like, my head was coming out of the clouds. I was just like, I didn't know what was going on. Um, but yeah, yeah.
When did you start to feel like, yeah, I should probably get back into the swing of things with music, or at least try to figure it out again?
Yeah, totally. Like they had a guitar at the rehab and a piano or like a keyboard. And
And
I was,
and you weren't touching that keyboard. You're like, guitar only. I'm not
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get
Well,
hurt.
I was actually really scared to like play music. Like there was something about it that felt like I felt like I was undeserving to like even play music anymore because I felt like I had like taken something so holy in my life and like completely disrespected and flushed it down the toilet. It was a weird feeling. Um, like I didn't think I'd ever be able to play music again. And I remember like it started with like going to a couple shows. It wasn't so much about going to see the shows, it was like the feeling of the live music returning within me that I felt like, whoa, like I just love music so much. And I would sit down and just like kind of like play like guitar a little bit, but I wasn't really like that into it. But what really hooked me back was one of the people at the who worked at the rehab knew that I played music, and they were like, again, I think this was just like a hand reaching out to like try and help me because she had also, had an experience where she stopped playing music, and I think she knew it's possible to like get back into it. And she asked me to like play bass for like a one-off like show thing she was doing at like this place in North Hollywood. And I was really hesitant, but at the same time, I was like very like honored and touched that like this person would even ask me to do that. Like I was like, and then I was also in my head, I was like, a show in Hollywood? I was like, North Hollywood? I was like, holy shit, this is big time
I
stuff.
fucking made it.
Exactly. I was like, again, like, just I have no idea. Like everything in LA was just like, oh my God. Like I was just like, so I think that like really, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to play in Hollywood. Like, holy shit. Like, of course, like, show up, it's like a small cafe type thing, and I'm just like, it's still Hollywood. Like, this is sick. Like, but playing that show and seeing some music, she really encouraged me. And I'll never forget it. I mean, I'll never forget it because, she didn't have to do that, and so, I think it was really just like people showing up for me, more artists showing up for me in ways. And I was going to a lot of AA meetings, and I was meeting some people who performed music and were touring musicians. And people who knew I played music who didn't play music would introduce me to them and be like, hey, this kid plays whatever. And I would talk to them about like my experience of feeling like I can't like pick up my instrument. And they all were like encouraging, and also like kind of giving me this like, I had that experience too, like you just need to like, don't put any pressure on it, like just it'll come back in the writing. And sure enough, like I definitely had this moment. I think I was like, it was around like nine, or it was almost like I think I was like a year sober, and I just got freaking all of a sudden just flooded creatively. Like I was just like, I was on one. I was just like I was deep in the channel. I was writing like a shit ton all of a sudden, and I was just like so so in it. And I was like, all right, like I felt really connected. I was like, I want to record a record, and like, um, and so that's when it really happened for me. I think I just needed some space, to like connect back with myself, before I could play again.
Right, right. Do you feel like you would have eventually gotten to that point that like inspired with and comfortable with music again if it wasn't for the encouragement of that first lady to bring you to play bass in her band or gig and talking to other people with like that were in the music world or music was a part of their world while they were using? Do you think you would have eventually gotten to that point without talking to them?
I don't think so in that way. Maybe eventually, but I mean, I'm a huge community advocate at this point in my life. And I think that without, community being able to like hold us up or giving us wings to fly when we can't fly ourselves, and mirroring that for us and showing us like maps, like life is way harder. Like it's something that I've come to appreciate so much about just like the nature of the DIY ethos, right? Is that like it's really about a togetherness, and really about like holding up others in a way through community. And I don't think I would have had that same type of experience hadn't it been people who showed up with no agenda, no intentions other than to just help. And that's like, I mean, that's rare, in this life of uh competition and capitalist fucking agenda, to have someone just want genuinely what's best for you, um, is just so rare. And I to answer your question, I just don't think it would have happened in the same way.
This sudden flood of inspiration,
Yeah.
those songs that you were working on, did that eventually come to be Johnny Cosmo? Was
Um,
that what it morphed into?
yeah. Well, what's funny is that I ended up I ended up having another friend come out here, who was also uh like struggling with heroin and shit. I actually helped him get help once I was,
You were his mark, right?
in a position. Yeah. And we used to play music together, and I mean, he was just like such an incredible songwriter. And I like, you know, he came out here, we formed like a little project that, so we were kind of like bouncing. So it was more of like a collaborative project, and we were like bouncing songs off each other. But then eventually that was kind of like, I think like just like another growth period. I think the songs that came out of that early period were more just like it wasn't even so much about the songs as they were just like the energy that they were bringing to me. So I got really hyped and I was like, I want to record a record. But when it came down to like the actual idea of recording the record, I was like, I think in my head, I was kind of like, wait, I was changing at such a fast pace emotionally and spiritually that I wasn't even resonating with the songs by the time it came to put them down. You know, it was like the momentum was there of writing, but I think I realized I was just like, whoa, this is only like the beginning of like kind of like what's going on with me. So I don't think it was until, yeah, it was like a few years later that I had gotten involved with this record label that at the time was in Echo Park. It was like underneath the Echo in this like tight little freaking corner. It
Oh,
was
was it
called,
a Lollipop? That was
yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Shout
And
out
I,
to Wyatt Blair. That guy's
oh, you know
awesome.
Wyatt?
Yeah, he's been on this podcast. I love him. I love Wyatt.
Oh, dude. So
And go check out
I'll
his
say this.
episodes too. There's fucking three of them. Go check. That's for the
Really?
listeners. Yeah,
Okay, I gotta
and you
check
too,
those out.
Johnny.
Like
You gotta go check
Wyatt.
them out.
So I'll say this right now. I would say that in the way that that person showed up for me to uplift my spirit and bring me forward, like in rehab, like it was specifically Thomas Dolis, who also worked there at the time, and Wyatt, uh, and Juju Ashworth, who has a band called Froth.
Amazing band.
And they all, I walked in there one day. I just found the place through Google. I walked in there one
Man,
day,
Google is just changing your course of just
dude,
your
changing
life.
my course. This other guy, Lewis, who worked there, and he had a band called Feeding People.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and Lewis, and I walked in there and they, Thomas and Lewis and Wyatt and Juju, they showed me nothing but love, like walking right in there. I knew no one in the city still really at that point besides, the few people from rehab. And like, I hadn't found any sort of like music community yet. And like, they really, they really just like showed up in this way that I needed at the time. And like, I'll never forget it. I'm still super close, with Thomas and Juju especially, like, and like it's just a crazy time to think about because yeah, I mean it was just a wild like experience of like finally kind of being like, oh, like here's a little like music niche in LA that I can like maybe like get a part of. And that's where it really started. And I think like Thomas, Thomas recorded the first Jonny Kosmo record and helped produce it and everything. And we even did some writing together. And he really, I remember like he was like the first one who he like really like told me that I could do things that at the time it really felt like a lot of the music in LA was like super like either really 60s based, like people were wearing like all the bell bottoms and shit going on, or it was like shoegazy type music going on. Like there was, and I was really into like kind of like funk music, R&B music. And I remember Thomas like being like, like you can do whatever you want and like you should like lean into what's you. And he was just like gave me like I suddenly started giving myself permission to like write the types of songs I wanted to write versus like trying to think like so much externally, and like Thomas helped me record that first record. And I loved the whole process. We had so much fun. And then like,
Thomas is awesome too, and go check out his not and you, Johnny, but go check out his interview too because those guys are awesome.
I mean, I got like like when his son was born, they asked me to be the godfather. So like I'm
Wow.
the godfather of Thomas's kid at this point, which is like hilarious because like the way we met was literally me walking into this record store one day. And like it's just like that world has totally obviously transformed a lot over time. The music scene in LA I've seen it change so much in the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in a lot of I would say just like great ways. But yeah, that was kind of where I first connected to like the LA music world.
And we're talking about 2012, 2013
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was 13
13.
because I lived in, yeah, it was 2013. Yeah.
I mean, and does it feel like what we're talking about right now happened 10 years ago, a whole decade ago?
No, not really. It's kind of wild, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're jumping in, and you played with in Mr. Elevator
Yeah, I
for a
still
time.
play bass. I still play bass in that band. We're writing a new record right now, which is cool. Yeah, I love playing with, I mean, Thomas is a freaking genius. He really is. I feel like he's like super, yeah, everyone go back and listen to his episode.
Go
That
back and listen
that guy
to
is
Thomas.
underrated. My
No,
hard
really.
opinion. I mean, if there is like a rating system, but I mean, I'm not just talking about as a musician, like as a producer and engineer. Thomas is like my favorite in the city. Like he is, every record he has worked on is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I just like,
definitely.
I am always plugging Thomas's skills. Go check him out. Go freaking hire him to make your record with you. He's amazing.
He's got his hands in a lot of good stuff right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Pearl Earl, that band?
Who?
Pearl Earl. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that he's working with them now. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Holy Wave, they're awesome.
Yeah. Holy, I mean, those guys are great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, those are good guys to get you into the
Yeah.
scene of LA. Yeah. And
Yeah, he's always so kind. Like I feel like I was met with a lot of like coolness, like coolness type people. Like, are you like what like are you cool? Like, and I really wasn't like a cool. Like, I'm not like a tradition. Like, I've never really. I'm not like a cool person, like coming in. I was like, I'm from Vermont. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, it's like non plus ultra. Like, what is this place? Like,
right.
I was like, I don't know.
So when did that first album, the and it was a the self-titled one,
Yeah,
right? That was the
that
first.
album came out in 2019. It was kind of like it was like it was more of an ambitious record to make, other than anything else I had ever recorded in my life, like with horns and friggin' arrangement heavy type of songs,
Bringing that
and
jazz influence in. Yeah, of course, of course.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, Thomas is a huge, really big into like synthesizers, and I never had much exploration in that territory until
Especially
10
since you
years.
were young. I mean, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
timidly approaching that.
Black and white keys bring up a lot of trouble.
So 2019 is when this the first album came out. Did you feel back or reacquainted with music before then, before that album came out?
Yeah, I felt reacquainted in like, being a part of just like others' projects and like playing and doing a lot of writing, but I was really like hyped on the fact that I spent like a lot of time like with that record and like the way everything came together. And that was the first time like I was really having trouble booking some sort of like place to have an album release. Like I could not get an email back for I like anywhere, like, and so I just decided I was like I'm gonna just fucking do my own thing. I'm just gonna like you know fucking rent out a hall and just fucking play there, and like if no one shows up, I really don't care, because like I like just want to perform with like a big band. That was like always my dream, is like I want like a fucking like I want like a big band. Like I want like fucking like 10 people on stage, you know? And so like I was like, I'm just gonna do it because that's what I want to do. And if people come, they come, and if they don't, they don't. And so that was like, we just like freaking did it. And it was sick. It was awesome. And it kind of like I caught that I was like, I really love playing with a big ass fucking band and orchestra and like a very community feeling type of project. And so like it kind of just like informed how the project has evolved, over time as like lot, live. It's got a lot of players, and I really love that. We have so much fun, and there's been kind of people who go in and out, but it's like it's really cool. Been really fortunate.
That's really awesome. And since then, there's been another release, right? So there's two albums thus far.
There's yeah, there's that album, and then there's this album called Pastry, which I released in 2021, which was recorded at my studio and a bit at Thomas's studio, and then he mixed it. So I kind of recorded a lot uh, at my own place on that one, uh, which was cool. Which was
Yeah,
great.
and you work in that capacity as well at your own studio, helping other
Yeah,
people with their music now.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I run a recording studio called Slime House. That's like um, it's like a detached garage from where I live, and it's sick. I've had it set up now for about say like 4 or 5 years, and I've had the privilege of like recording on a lot of great music and records there, um and I really learned a lot again from Thomas in terms of recording. Like he's been kind of my mentor in terms of all that, and so, but now, now also just learning from other people who I know record music who moved here. And yeah, it's kind of like an ongoing practice and process. Yeah.
When you look back at your music or your history with music, does that amaze you that this is where you're at within music of making your own and helping other people
Yeah.
within the community?
Yeah. It really does actually. In its most baseline, it really does. I really feel like everyone's obviously journey as an artist is different. And I kind of just consider, I'm just kind of like feel like I'm just like another bozo on the bus, to be honest. Like I don't really feel like there's nothing real special going on here except for the fact that like I feel like I'm I really have a sense of gratitude about like my life. I think just on all the heavy shit I've just been through in my life. Like I just feel like I like there's something about music that just feels so giving, and like I just love being able to be a part of other people's process. And like I've just been so grateful to be invited into other people's worlds and journeys, even not even at my studio, just like getting invited to be a part of sessions or like songwriting. Like I've gotten to work with just like people who are like my heroes.
Right.
So
You're happy to be back on the bus.
I'm happy to be back on this bus, just like a bozo on this bus, just like trying to, like I literally just like putting one foot in front of the other, do, it's all that shit I was taught early on when I was like getting sober, just like do the next right thing and like try and like help people's dreams come true. I feel like as I've gone on, I've been more interested in like helping people's dreams become a reality than like really, of course, like I like I like that for myself as well. But I really feel like I really love helping other people's dreams happen, you know? And like musically, that's just really cool. To like be like, here's what I have for these songs and this idea for a record, and like just like being able to work on them and see them come to a finished thing is like, fuck, I can't think of really much better. You know, much
That's
anything,
awesome.
you know?
That's rad.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're back on the bus,
Thank
Johnny, and your music's awesome, dude. And
oh, thank
thank you so much for sitting down with me
you, of
and
course.
sharing this. I know there's a lot more to this story, but I appreciate you,
Of course.
giving me a little insight to this. It's been really,
Thank
really cool, dude.
you. Thank you, because actually I haven't really like had a moment to reflect on all this, like this narrative of my relationship to it in quite some time. And I feel like it really actually brought up a lot for me, like in just like going through this and like realizing like, yeah, how just like meaningful it really is, like to me, you know. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Pleasure is all mine, sir.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up here, I got some promo to do.
Yeah.
So, Johnny's music is streaming everywhere. Both of these albums that we've been talking about, the self-titled and what was the second name?
Pastry. Yeah.
Pastry. Both of those albums are streaming everywhere, right? Wherever the people get their music, that's
Totally.
where they find it. Rad. And the people can support you directly through the Bandcamp, right? That's where they can buy the music and the merch.
Yeah.
Good deal. And that's at johnnykosmo.bandcamp.com. And everybody gets stay up to date with everything
So,
else, news and shows and stuff by following you on Instagram, right? Is that the best place?
yeah, that's pretty much where I post everything that I'm doing these days. I also have a website that's like johnnykosmo.com, that has that information as well.
Rad.
Yeah.
And again, the Instagram is at Jonny Kosmo and johnnykosmo.com. You're just cornering the market. You just
It's just
taking it over.
keep going.
Whatever domain. You're everywhere.
Yeah.
And and people can get more information about this studio by following you or the studio on Instagram, right? That
Yeah. The studio's at Slime House, one word. Um, just to quickly plug, like my wife's record came out yesterday that we worked on, and it's frigging amazing. I know I might be kind of biased saying that, but like I've known Gracie's music before I even started, you know, we even started dating, and she is an incredible songwriter. It was such a cool record. So go check it out. It came out yesterday on Wharf Cat. And it's sick. It's so good. She's so talented, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and the other people that you do work with as well. That's all on Instagram at Slimehouse Studio. So go give that a follow and check that out because it's rad.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
working on a lot of good stuff. Marina Allen, I saw she did her. You worked with her on her record.
We tracked both Marina's records at the studio, and Marina is a dear friend, and like that's like an example of just like watching like someone's dreams like become a reality. Like I feel like when we first started meeting, like Marina was like very scattered as to like what these songs even meant to her and everything. And now it's just so great to see her do all that. And she's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and her and other talented musicians work
Yeah.
with Johnny because they know where to go to get the work done.
Yeah.
He's a good guy to work with, and he's a good guy in general. Johnny, you're awesome, sir. Thank you so much. Do we have anything else to promote before we cut you loose here? Anything else to plug?
The next string of shows I'm doing actually a residency. It hasn't been announced yet, but I'm doing a residency at Zebulon in August. So every week in August, on every Tuesday, we'll be playing there. If you're interested in coming, come on down.
Go and support. Johnny, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute.
Cool.
All right.
All right, cool.